All right. I think you can actually see me over the podium, but let me know if I need to step to the side. I feel like my intro was basically what I'm going to talk to you about in a few minutes here, but I hope you'll bear with me. We'll see. I have a few slides, so I'm going to let them, I'll do it next. Awesome. Okay, so I didn't want to assume, although this is a bit of an intimidating audience, many of which were here for this process before I entered this grant mechanism. But for those who this may not be as familiar, I wanted to just take a second and introduce where we were in 2019. So this call for the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative Imaging Scientists came out in 2018, and we were notified January of 2019. And this was one of the very first grant initiatives that the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative Science had. Corey Bargman was the announced scientific officer, and I knew her from my interactions during my postdoc at Rockefeller University. And it was for supporting 10 CZI imaging scientists for up to 5 years, and we were going to be renewed after 3 years. Almost everybody that I knew who was working in a facility tagged this and started to apply. So I'm not sure, I don't know the total numbers of applicants they had, but I know it was in the hundreds for sure. And the main difference here was that it was funding people. They had to be at imaging centers in the United States. So that was one thing that was very unique about this one. The primary goal of the program was to increase interactions between biologists and technology experts using facilities as the hub for that. And the grant funds were entirely salary and fringe benefits for the single imaging scientist, and it provided travel and teaching budgets and 15% indirect costs. So what about me, right? So I had just gotten my job at UNC, returning back home to run a center that had historically been a closed center based off of grants of a P30 for a neuroscience center and a U54 or P50, it's changed grant mechanisms, for an IDDRC. And the center I ran was that. And I started as a manager because centers at UNC cannot hire faculty. So I started on the staff position with the plan to move to faculty. And as you can see, part of applying to this grant meant figuring out if I could be a PI of a grant, figuring out if I could accept 15% indirect costs, who was going to get my indirect costs. This went all the way up to the vice chancellor in order for me to actually hit the submit button on a foundation that didn't go through NIH. So just applying for this, I had entered into a whole new realm of what does it mean to be a PI grant holder at my institution, and who do I talk to if this is going to be changing some of that role. Okay, so the next slide is me. Okay, so we were asked to talk about both personal, local, and community impact. And one of the things that was really incredible to me on a personal scale was the capacity building workshops that CZI offered to all of their grantees. And again, at this time, we were a very small number. So we had access to all of these online tools with experts from all over, and one-on-one personal coaching, of which I had never heard of before. I'd heard of mentorship, I'd heard of advising, I'd never heard of coaching. And through them, I was able to get weekly coaching. And I'm running out of time, but that was one of the most impactful things to me, going from the COVID times from a single person core to what became a 4-person core, from a staff position to a faculty position, and learning what I wanted to be when I grew up and what my dreams for the facility would be. The local impact was incredible. It allowed me to hire staff. And from that, we got grants, we got equipment, we got new users, we got new interactions with industry. We interacted with data. I could bring people in. We now have an Omero Plus license. I could teach courses, and none of that I could do before. The community impact was huge. I went and I learned, I would consider them all shadowing or exchange of experience visits, and that led me to be a participant, a host, to hosting my own, eventually becoming co-director of a dream course. And last, okay, so what did this make possible that wasn't possible otherwise? I was able to move from strategy from a reactive standpoint where I was just trying to live day to day. We became collaborative. I learned that everybody else has all of this research data knowledge they're willing to share, and I didn't have to reinvent the wheel for literally everything I do. Travel was key to literally every single thing I did. This exchange of experience, seeing what people do, seeing them teach, seeing them interact, the layouts of their centers, seeing how they run meetings, and growth and visibility. So this led to me being on faculty council at our university, interacting on the research sphere. I now chair the committee for research for our chancellor. And I'm both the first fixed term person on that. I was the first assistant level and first facility person. And so it has enabled me to engage with our communities at all different levels in ways that wouldn't have otherwise been possible. Sorry, that was so long.